What's up, everybody? Justin Wittmer-Mikesell here, the Redneck Republican, and this was kind of a last-minute idea, but I wanted to come on here and do a bit better of a recap, especially of some of the local elections we had. Just because that last video I made, I'd filmed it a few different times. I really wasn't a fan of how it went down, and I like to do all this stuff off the top of my head anyway. There was some stuff that I forgot to mention. So anyway, so like I said, this is going to be mainly local stuff. So for Ripley County, again, it was very interesting with the prosecutor election because you had the incumbent, nearly 30-year incumbent Rick Hurdle, having a pretty serious primary challenger in Arkenberg. And Arkenberg's main thing was he didn't like how many special prosecuting appointments that Hurdle had taken. He thought that the prosecutor should be 100% on the county, and I kind of understand that a little bit. But the biggest thing for me personally is if this was a bigger county that was had a lot of crime, I could see that. I would want the prosecutor mainly focusing here, but in a county like Ripley, when we don't have a lot of crime, especially a lot of violent crime, so I think the prosecutor has enough time to take special prosecuting gigs. And plus, in Ripley County, we have Shane Tucker as the chief deputy prosecutor, and he's more than capable of handling the cases. If Arkenberg could have proved that there's a backlog of cases due to Hurdle taking the gigs, then I'd be down with what he was saying. But because he wasn't able to prove that, it didn't really get me too much. And plus, one of the special prosecuting gigs that Hurdle took was, again, putting away Jamie Nolan that I've talked about. So that's my thing for that. But I feel like the main thing that really drove it was that former Sheriff Tom Grills was a very big supporter of Arkenberg because of the fact that Hurdle pretty much let some guy get off on a plea deal that had been threatening Grills for a long time and threatening his life pretty much. And he was arrested a few years ago. Hurdle let him off on a plea deal, and now he's getting out this summer. And former Sheriff Tom Grills he is like pretty fearful that this guy might try to come kill him. So he even said in his public post that this prosecutor may have just cost me his life, or cost me my life. So, and Sheriff Grills was, he had some people that didn't like him, just like you always do, but he was a twice elected sheriff, and a lot of people wanted him to run since, because in Ripley County, well, I think it's for most Indiana counties, but you can only serve 2 terms at a time, but you're not capped. You can serve 8 years, and you have to wait for it, but then you can run again. And there's a lot of people that have wanted Grills to run again. So it's like when you have a popular guy like that, really saying, "Hey, this guy we have isn't good for the county," that's going to carry some weight. But it wasn't. The problem that I didn't like about it is that they waited so long to do it. Hurdle didn't really have a chance to kind of combat any of those allegations. Because again, Arkenberg, he didn't start campaigning until a couple weeks before they got early voted already, before Arkenberg even announced his candidacy. He was on the ballot, but he hadn't announced that he was seeking the nomination. So, and plus with him being older, the guy was the first elected prosecutor in 1986, I believe. So, if I'm thinking correctly, he was prosecutor from maybe 86 to 98, something like that. I think he was the prosecutor, and then I'm not sure if Hurdle beat him in 98 or if Arkenberg just retired, and then that's when Hurdle got it. But it was something like that. So it's like he had his time, his past. You could argue that Hurdle's time has come and passed, but I would like somebody younger to replace him. And that's sort of why on the judge election for Superior Court, I did support Shane Tucker over Sharp. Even though I liked both of them, Sharp's been in it for a while, and even though he's done a great job, it is always nice to getting fresh ideas in there and all that. So, you know, a big reason why people didn't. I mean, obviously, a lot of people like Sharp because he's done a good job. He's a really nice guy, but because of the fact that Shane Tucker is a Rick Hurdle disciple, see, our circuit court judge who was elected, I'd say also probably about 12 years. Him and Sharp were elected about the same time. But yeah, the circuit court judge Ryan King, he was also a Hurdle disciple. He was the chief deputy prosecutor. He was elected to the circuit court judge. So then, if you got Shane Tucker elected, then both judges in Ripley County would have been chief deputy prosecutors for Hurdle, and a lot of people didn't. You know, well, I don't know about a lot of people. Well, I guess you could say a lot because, you know, Jeff Sharp didn't get reelected comfortably, so that was a big reason why a lot of people didn't like Shane Tucker. And also, a lot of people didn't like it because it was from Batesville. And if any of you guys know anything about Ripley County politics, you kind of have Batesville up in the north, which half of it is in Franklin County. And then you have the rest of us, like Versailles, Westmoreland, Osgood, Napoleon, Crossways, all that. It's kind of its own little thing. Batesville and also Sunman, those two northernmost towns, they're kind of separate. Especially not as much Sunman, especially Batesville. And a lot of the people down in the southern part of the county don't much like Batesville as well. You know, a lot of people say they're stuck up there. I mean, I'm not going to say whether or not. I mean, I know a lot of people from Batesville that I think are great people. There's also people from Batesville that I'm not the biggest fan of, you know, like with anything. But that's pretty much my opinion with that. But yeah, this Superior Court judge election, I mean, I'm not surprised. Sharp got reelected. You know, he's done a good job as judge and implemented a lot of programs. He's a nice guy, so I'm not surprised. Honestly, I think the main reason for Shane Tucker running, I don't necessarily think he was trying to be elected judge. I think that there's a good chance this could be Rick Hurdle's last term as a prosecutor, and I think he might just, you know, not run for re-election. Then I can see Shane Tucker running for election for prosecutor in 4 years. And so then he used this run for judge to get his name out there, so that way, you know, I mean, I'm sure other people might run for prosecutor. He's already going to have his name out there, some name recognition that might help him out, help him get elected in 2030. That's just my thought. I mean, that's nothing easy. Shane Tucker's never said anything like that, but that's just my thought because politicians do that a lot. And then you had the election for Ripley County Council District 2, I believe, or was it 3? Oh man, I can't remember. Either 2 or 3. It's basically the Milan area. This is where you had incumbent Stan Wiedemann being challenged by Brian Franklin. Brian Franklin, he's a pretty popular guy around the area. He's an auctioneer. I think he's been a volunteer firefighter in the past. I'm not positive, but I think he mentioned that in the Meet the Candidates thing we had. But yeah, I'm not surprised that Franklin won, but it was the fact that I thought it'd be pretty close. And it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't a blowout per se, but it wasn't like it wasn't a close election either, which that kind of shocked me. But I mean, I don't necessarily think it's anything that Wiedemann has done. I think it's just the fact that Brian Franklin is a popular guy, and also in Indiana we kind of had an anti-incumbency streak anyway with some of the elections. So, and the last thing for Ripley County I'll mention was for the Shelby Township trustee election. The incumbent Vicky Taylor actually got primaried by a guy named Brian Meisberger, I believe. His name was Meisberger. I think it was Brian. But I guess the thing with that, I guess Vicky Taylor had used funds from the township to hire an attorney for the township or something. I guess something was going on where people didn't think that she should have hired that attorney, or where she got the money to do that, people didn't think was right. So I guess that's kind of where that came from. But I don't live in Shelby Township, so I'm not completely familiar with all the politics going on down there. But that was definitely kind of interesting to me. So the main reason I'm making this video is because I kind of didn't talk as much about Jennings County in that last video that I wanted to. So we talked about the sheriff election. Cody Lau beat Tom Webster, Casey Shelton, and Rodney Walkentall against Seymour. And again, he was the establishment candidate. He is the chief deputy to the current sheriff, Kenny Freeman, who a lot of people don't like Kenny Freeman. Excuse me. But obviously it wasn't enough, because even if you add up all the votes between Webster, Shelton, and Liggett, Lau would still win. So Lau, he had, even back as a deputy, I think he had run-ins with like law enforcement. You know, like I said, even as a deputy, I think it was something like battery. I'm not sure if he got that expunged or not, but it's something that, you know, a lot of people say always that was in the past. That was about 10 years ago, I think. But it'll definitely be interesting. I'm not a big fan of him because he's a big Diego guy, and I don't like anybody associated with Diego Morales, as you all know. So I would probably support the Democrat Gary Driver in the general election. He's been you know, my mom knows his wife and everything. Great people. From all accounts, I think seems like he was a good sheriff back when he served. I think the only reason he got beat by Kenny Freeman in 2018 was just because of the fact that it was because the party label by the name Republican and Democrat. I think Gary Driver is more than capable, and I don't think he doesn't have the baggage that Lau has, that I'm not a fan of. But the big thing that I forgot that I didn't talk about in my last video were the judge elections in Jennings County. So for the circuit court judge, you had the incumbent Ellie Webster Bright running for re-election. This was her first term. She had taken over after her father, John Webster, had retired, and she immediately got elected right after he decided not to run for re-election. And John Webster, he had been a circuit court judge since the 90s, for a long time. She was being challenged by, I believe, the chief deputy prosecutor, or he may not have been the chief deputy, but he was a deputy prosecutor, and he was pretty high up with that, James Triani. And the dynamics of that race, people didn't like, the people who didn't like Webster Bright was because I guess she had been caught falling asleep in court before. I guess she had shown up late to court sometimes, and her excuse for showing up late was, I guess, to, that way to give the litigants or whatever time to arrive. If they were a little bit late, that way she wouldn't have to charge them for being late to court or something like that. Just trying to be nice, which, and I, my family has experience with John Webster doing that same thing. Which, it's a nice gesture, but I really don't think you should be doing that as a judge. And, she never did address the falling asleep in court. Now, that's the case, that's bad. That James Triani guy, I guess he had lived in Florida for a while. He was from here, but then moved down to Florida, and then just recently came back. So, of course, you always have that, are you really part of Jennings County, all that. But he seems like he was a capable guy. It was a little bit surprising to me, but James Triani did primary Ellie Webster Bright. Just having a sitting judge get primary is not something you see that much, unless they're really bad at their job, which Ellie Webster Bright must have been. And then for Superior Court judge, you had the prosecutor Brian Belding running against former Judge John Webster. The incumbent Superior Court judge is retiring. So that left the seat open, and that's a big race too, because Brian Belding is popular as the prosecutor, and then obviously former Judge John Webster is popular. Brian Belding won, so you had both Websters lose, and that just was surprising. A lot of people like the Websters, but a lot of people don't like the Websters, and I'm happy with that, because to me personally, I just don't think you want one family running the entire judicial system of a county. And that Tom Webster, that guy running for sheriff, I don't know if he's related to them or not. But if he is, and if he got elected, then that'd be 3 Websters. It's just like, ugh. But I'm not too sure if he is related to them or not. But anyway, it's just surprising to me that both Websters lost. And then, let's see, anything else for Jennings County. Jason Judd was nominated for the Republicans prosecutor. He is unopposed for the nomination, and he'll be unopposed in the general election. You actually had, I think both the auditor and recorder. I think there's definitely auditor. I think recorder was a competitive election as well. Maybe the clerk, something like that. I don't. There's actually a lot of competitive races in East County. I can't remember the results right offhand, but I didn't really know any of these candidates, so can't really speak too much on that. Matt Sporleader got reelected as, I believe, he's a commissioner or county council. I can't remember. This is the one problem of doing this stuff off the top of my head. For a while, I thought he was going to get beat. When those results was coming in, I thought he was about to get beat, but he did hold on. Yeah, someone else. My mom knows his wife and his family, kind of. So that's kind of the slight connection we have with them. But I think that's all for Genesee County. I guess for the sheriff race, I thought, Tom Webster, he came in a decently close second, and then you see Lau, he had over 2,000 votes, Webster over 1,000, and then both Shelton and Liggett had about 200 each, but Shelton had a few more. Again, both those guys didn't have, both Liggett and Shelton had no law enforcement experience, so it's not surprising that they didn't get too many votes. Again, I think they had both, especially Liggett. I know he had some trouble with the law in the past, and Shelton may have as well. I've heard that from friends of mine. Now, as far as Scott County, I didn't really pay too much attention to the Scott County races, except I know for the Republican nomination for sheriff, it was Scott Zellers over Sean Mayer, I think. It's Zellers and Mayer. I don't know the first names right offhand. I think it was Scott it was Zellers beat Mayer for the Republican nomination. I know that. And then the Democrat was Joe Guarneri, or I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I'm going to assume he was a Democrat. I'm going to assume he's the chief deputy for Jerry Gooden, the incumbent sheriff. But it'll be really interesting to see who wins that, because Scott County, it does have a decent amount of Democrats over there, so I can see the Democrats, especially if Jerry Gooden is still popular. Clark County, like I talked about before, was the big one with Kenny Freeman primary and incumbent Sheriff Scotty Maples, but I'm not surprised. Scotty Maples being chief deputy to Jamie Knoll. People of Clark County just want to put Jamie Knoll behind them, and I don't blame them at all. So, and then Tim Derringer beat Ed Byers for the Democrat nomination. Let's see, Jefferson County, Ben Flint beat Mike Sims. I'm not surprised. I mean, a lot of people didn't like Ben Flint. That's why Sims had so much support. But at the end of the day, Ben Flint is popular enough as the incumbent sheriff, and a lot of people thought he was infinitely more qualified than Mike Sims to be sheriff. I think they were both qualified, to be honest. But at the end of the day, Ben Flint won. So I didn't really know either of those two guys, so I didn't really have a leg to stand on for that too much. I didn't really pay. I know Tammy Monroe was elected to one of the county council districts, and I think she primaried an incumbent, Mike Turner. I think from what I can tell, it seemed like Mike Turner was caucused in, and then, if this is incorrect, I might end up cutting this part out, but it seems like the incumbent just resigned, Mike Turner was caucused in, and then he was running for a re-election, and then Tammy Monroe beat him, which is certainly interesting. I have to imagine, was Tammy Monroe just insanely popular, or was Mike Turner insanely unpopular? And then I don't think there were any other races, at least any insanely competitive in Jefferson County. Switzerland County, the sheriff race, you had I believe, it was definitely a deputy. I think he was a chief deputy. Clinton Earls going up against military veteran Shannon T. Brown, going up against former IMPD, Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Officer Stephen Che, going also up against Jimmy Parker. And Clinton Earls won, no surprise there, being the guy with the most experience. A lot of people didn't like it because they kind of the same thing with Genesee County. They all said, "Oh, it's the good old boys getting in this." Like, well, law enforcement experience is important if you want to be the sheriff, and people will vote accordingly. But the people who wanted an outsider, a lot of people wanted that. That's why Shannon T. Brown came in second. no surprise there. What did surprise me is I kind of thought Stephen Che would come in third and Jimmy Parker would come in fourth, but it was actually Stephen Che who came in fourth. And I think the reason for that was Stephen Che was being the most vocal about, I guess you could say he ran the most negative campaign. I wouldn't call it that, but he was the one who was very, very vocal that he believed he had the most experience being a former Indianapolis Metropolitan Police officer and being the head of security at Boterra. And he thought that was, and especially, I know he especially was going hard against Shannon Brown and Jimmy Parker for not really having too much, especially Brown not having any and then Parker not having a whole heck of a lot of law enforcement experience. So, and a lot of people didn't like that. He's in a small community. People don't like him when you start talking bad about each other. So, that's just kind of where that comes from. But yeah, I was surprised that Jimmy Parker was able to come out ahead of Stephen Che. And again, I think that was really about the only race competitive for Richland County. And Dearborn County had some. The sheriff race, you had again, I think it was the chief deputy, Carl Pazanka, up against Jason Wyatt. Again, another military veteran. And Pazanka won. It was close, but Pazanka won. And you're not surprised. I mean, Wyatt had a lot of support, especially from people like Sam Morrison, who kind of want outsiders, but the good old boys tend to win and stuff like that. It's just the way it is. And I know it was, I think, Jeff Cotton and Kevin Turner, I think, are the ones both vying for a commissioner spot. And this is the one where I think Cotton was the grassroots guy and Kevin Turner was the establishment, but Cotton was actually able to win, so I'm pretty sure Sam Mortensen was supporting him, so I know he'll be happy with that. And that's about all I know about Dearborn County. Franklin County, for sheriff, you had Adam Henson against Chris Maxey, I believe. Henson beat Maxey. Didn't really know anything about that race. I just know who the candidates was. Same thing for Jackson County. Dustin Stewart against Roger Drew against Mark Holt. Mark Holt didn't have much of a campaign. Mark Holt didn't have much of a campaign. Roger Drew, a state boy, state cop. He was definitely the grassroots kind of guy, and Dustin Stewart was the kind of more establishment pick. Again, I don't know if he was the current chief deputy or what, but something like that, I would assume. I know John Rust was supporting Roger Drew, but Dustin Stewart did win. Again, I'm not too surprised with that. Now what I want to talk about are some delegate races. Now, most people who really follow Indiana politics now have heard about how Diego Morales and his wife both ran for a delegate in Marion County. And there was 18 candidates, 6 would be elected. Diego came in 12th, and Sidonia, his wife, came in 17th. I mean, his wife not getting too many votes, that's not too surprising to me because, his wife not coming in, not getting too many votes isn't too surprising to me because, I mean, the wife just isn't going to be as popular. The spouse isn't going to be as popular. But Diego Morales, the sitting Secretary of State, was going to have insane name recognition, coming in not even just barely missing out. The fact that he was pretty comfortably not elected just shows you that if the Republicans of Marion County do not trust this guy to be their representative at the Republican convention, how can statewide Hoosiers trust this guy to be our Secretary of State? It's just not it. I'm sorry, but if you support Diego Morales, look in the mirror and say, hey, this is going to cost Republicans a statewide election. But the reason I bring this up is because down in Jefferson County, current Madison Mayor Bob Courtney is running for delegate. A lot of people like Bob Courtney, a lot of people don't like Bob Courtney. He's definitely an establishment kind of guy. He's big friends with all the big time politicians around here. He ran for delegate, like I said, in Jefferson County for the Republican convention. There were 12 people running. 11 spots were open. So it meant one person was going to come in last and not be elected as delegate. You want to take a guess at who that was? One person that came in last who did not get elected convention delegate. Madison Mayor Bob Courtney. That is absolutely pathetic. The city mayor of the county seat not being elected, not only like coming in last place, being the only guy not elected. I mean, come on, that's insane. This just shows you how unpopular. I mean, I say a lot of people love him, but a lot of people don't like him because of some of the policies he's trying to implement. You know, he's wanting to build like condos on the riverfront. A lot of people don't like that. A lot of people hate all the golf carts driving around Madison now. It's like a lot of people think he's doing a lot of harm to Madison, and it shows by him not even. I mean, he was elected mayor and he was re-elected mayor, but the fact that he couldn't even get elected convention delegate is crazy. When I saw that, my jaw about hit the ground. I was like, "Are you shitting me? Really?" And that's a big reason why I made this video, is because I just had to talk about that. But anyway, I think that's about all I'm going to talk about for now. Again, I just wanted to do a bit deeper of a dive into just the local elections. And I also wanted to talk about Jennings County, because I did forget to talk about that in the previous video. You know, as soon as I finish this, I'm going to think something. Oh man, I forgot to talk about whatever. But I know that the election in Kentucky is coming up. We got to support Thomas Madison. We cannot have a rubber stamp and Ed Gallagher get elected. We have to. Well, say we, I don't live in Kentucky, but Kentuckians in District 4 have to re-elect. Republicans in Kentucky District 4 have to renominate Thomas Massey. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's got to happen. I think the soul of the Republican Party is at stake. But anyway, that's about all I have for now. Again, I've been busy as of late, and most of June I'm going to be gone, and I'm not going to be available to make videos. But I really want to start making videos, doing deep dives into why I think people like Aaron Houchin or Mike Braun or whoever, Jim Banks, whatever, are not good conservatives, just political establishment rubber stamps. So anyway, that's all I've got for now. I appreciate you guys watching this video. If you liked it, hit the like button. If you didn't like it, hit the dislike button. If you like what I have to say and would like to hear more, hit that subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. I'm having a lot of fun making these little videos. And I hope you guys have fun watching and listening to them. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you all later. What's going on, everybody? Real quick before this video ends, I wanted to come on and talk a little bit about the election in Louisiana last night. As you all probably have seen by now, Senator Bill Cassidy was primaried. The election isn't fully over yet. It is going to go to a runoff because no candidate got a majority of the votes, but Bill Cassidy came in third place. So he is, but he pretty much primaried. And Bill Cassidy, he's not the perfect senator by any means, but he is a patriot for having the balls to stand up to Trump and vote to impeach him when he thought that was the right thing to do. Now later on, he's done some things that have kind of made it seem like he's trying to pull a Todd Young and make it, I'm still with the president. And it's like, well, not really. But I will always respect anybody who has the balls to stand up to Trump and to, in his case, vote to impeach him, and that's basically a political death sentence. So, but yeah, I just wanted to, I hadn't uploaded this video yet, and then when I saw the election happened, I was like, no reason not to come on here and give a short analysis on it. But that'll be all for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and if you enjoyed, press the like button, and if you like what I have to say and would like to hear more, please subscribe. I would appreciate it. But that would be all for now. Have a great day.